Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Living My Fest Life, a podcast about festivals, fairs, events, and experiences. Everything from what's known nationally to what's known locally, and all the obscure stuff. And I'm joined this week again by my friends John Van Ness and Joe Peters from Ridge Radio, and we're discussing a really unique festival that happens once a year in Colorado. We're talking about Frozen Dead Guy Day. I'm living my best life. Today we're talking about Frozen Dead Guy Days in Nederland, Colorado. This was, my stepsister Kayla lives in Colorado, and she said, you should do this, or you should look into this. This is crazy. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, this needs to be done. It was named one of the most quirky festivals in the United States. It's world-renowned, 3 days, 30 bands, lots of other stuff. So first thoughts, first impressions when we said, let's talk about Frozen Dead Guy Days.
Well, Kelly, I have to say it's great to be back on the show again because John and I mean, to be asked back only when you have the most obscure, most weird possible show or a festival to cover is it's an honor, really.
Oh, well, good.
I mean, Kelly knows we're all about research.
Right.
We each have our little notepads.
Yeah.
We've spent weeks and weeks researching.
Well, I figured I'd make you guys not talk about rodents for one time, or, you know what I mean? Not talk about obscure animals or, you know.
But when you need to dig deep and you say, oh, man, this is about a festival all about a frozen dead guy, who should I pick? And it's
obviously you guys.
Yeah, so
of course.
Yeah.
So we're real stiffs.
Was I going to do my own work? No, I wasn't. So I'm glad you guys did my work for me. Always.
So first impression, John.
So my first impression when I heard we were going to be doing Frozen Dead Guy Days, I just thought it was going to be about some rando mountain man who froze to death and turned blue in a cabin, and they found him, and ha, that's hilarious. Let's have a party.
That's hilarious?
Yeah.
You thought they were like, this asshole.
Because I will say, I grew up in a northern state. I grew up in Wisconsin, and it was, I would say, a regular news story that someone's ice fishing or snowmobiling or, doing some Northwoods cabin, whatever they're doing, and just freeze to death. And it's like, oh, yeah, good old Olaf froze to death,
Wait.
something stupid in the cold.
You think the locals would know about people freezing to death and then be like, you know what, maybe I should pack an extra, thing of hand warmers or whatever.
Right. Well, mostly what the Wisconsin people rely on is good old-fashioned beer to keep them warm, and all these guys must have just run out.
Is that a proven thing? Does beer really keep you warm?
It has. I haven't died yet from freezing, so I think.
Should we lock him out of the room? He's got a six-pack here.
It's cold enough. We could do the experiment right here. First impressions, I thought I didn't really think it was an actual dead guy in a shed, and it is. It is. So that's really weird for me.
We all visualized shed.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that went to our mind.
Yeah.
I thought, explorer, a bunch of explorers going across the country, and they died maybe in a cave, but you guys both went shed.
Yeah.
I was thinking Donner Party, something like that. Someone eating each other, but I was way off.
Right. Yeah.
So what is it about?
So apparently it's a guy in somebody's garage, like on dry ice. Kelly, I mean, I don't know. Do you have the background on?
So, yes. So, his name, they call him Grandpa Brado, but Brado Morstel. So, he lived in Norway, and he was an outdoorsman his whole life. He actually worked as the director of Parks and Recreation at one point. So, he was like these Wisconsinites. I know. He sounds like a Norway guy just drinking beer, ice fishing with his reindeer. But no, he died in 1989 of a heart condition. And what happened was they packed him in dry ice and sent him to California. Now, this is maybe he had some Walt Disney fantasy about being frozen later. I just picture Austin Powers. Maybe there's a room of prominent people that they freeze like this. However, this seems like a normal, regular old Brado, just a normal Brado.
Well,
schmo.
When you think of somebody cryogenically frozen like Ted Williams or somebody like that, I think of this scientific lab, and this is the exact opposite of that. This is somebody's backyard shed.
This is much more Han Solo, frozen in a block of ice, and then melt back out.
Yeah.
Rather than a scientific tubes in one of those bubbling cauldrons of fluid, and
but since '89, they're just going and getting more ice cubes. I mean,
that's exactly right. Science. That's just straight up science right there.
So they packed him in dry ice, and then he was frozen in liquid nitrogen when he was in California for 4 years, and then they sent him to Colorado to live with his daughter. Now, when they said it on the website, live with his daughter. I mean, poor choice of words. I mean,
it's a loose definition.
Yeah,
of live.
I would say more. He was sent to California to burden a family member with his frozen existence.
I've always wanted to live in Colorado. Maybe I'll just die and move there.
We can live wherever we want. It's any way the wind blows nowadays, you guys. So they actually put him in a shed, like you said. Goddamn people in their sheds. Cold weather shed. And then continually packed him in dry ice. And then, because I think they said something like they couldn't send him back to Norway. There was a law about, like, you can't keep dead bodies in your house. Or there was some kind of...
Yeah, maybe there's customs.
You guys went with me. The laws are gray area.
Laws are so weird that you can't keep dead people on your property.
Listen, Norman Bates ruined it for everyone. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to put him in a rocking chair, staring out the window to scare your postman.
Who hasn't want to keep a frozen relative in the garage?
Yeah, I'd want to pose them personally. So they sent him there, and then is it like just they kept doing it? Like they sent, like, I think they couldn't pay their power bills or something like that. So now he lives in a shed, and there is a full-time caretaker who has to go every 2 weeks and pack him in dry ice and repack him. And basically the town's kind of adopted him as their mascot-ish. Is that your understanding, or did I miss anything?
That sounds like what happened. I mean, they just... I was really surprised by the dry ice part, because I don't know what's the plan. Like, you're gonna keep him kind of frozen, I guess. Kind of like get some stuff from the grocery store, throw it on his body, and then what? Like, are you?
And then the plot of Encino Man 2 happens.
Like, I would think there needs to be more science involved.
Well, then he's still got a heart problem. I mean, you bring him back, and it's like, and he died again from another heart attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 1989. So now they say, like, what, he's 110 years old, technically. They keep, aging him and stuff. So I wonder if they celebrate his birthday every year. Right, but it's been on lists of best costume festival in the country, TV channels, Monumental Mysteries, featured in Norwegian Airlines and Magazine. I mean, that's the epitome of class and sophistication.
That's what you want to be.
And as the cover story, not exactly Coachella, which I like that little tongue-in-cheek name there. Top 5 winter festivals of the country, top 10 lists of Lonely Planet. I mean, this is a huge festival. Why do you guys think this got so big?
I mean, it sounds very appealing, I have to say. There's a huge list of what sounds like awesome events to either participate in or even just watch and show up and walk around the town. So
3 full days.
List.
Yeah.
It's 3 full days. They have tours of the shed, which I was in right away. I got to see what is going on in the shed. So I'm in. They have a hearse parade, I think, is one of the early Saturday events. So people from...
Well, it kicks off with the Blue Ball, which I thought was a hilarious name.
Blue Balls.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
What is that?
On Friday. Just a ball.
It's a music festival.
So they have 30 bands. Okay, what else do they have there?
So the hearse parade, there's a polar plunge. So that's, your classic, I'm very familiar with this from up in Wisconsin. Jump in a frozen pond. It's great, by the way.
It is. It makes your body feel so good.
I've never done it, but I would do that. But I watched a video of this, and it was like a dirty cesspool. It was not. It was maybe I saw it late in this festival or something, but. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's supposed to be costumes. Maybe everybody's face paint just wipes right off and goes right.
There's a lot of guys in thongs and some crazy costumes, and it's got to be awesome to watch.
Why is that crazy?
I think what I read the most about and saw the most pictures of is the coffin race. This seems like the signature race of Frozen Dead guys.
Describe that to us.
So what it looks like is there's 6 essentially pallbearers for each coffin, which is holding a person. So you have to have kind of a, probably diminutive person who you're carrying around, and they run through a muddy and snowy park, and it's these 6 people, usually dressed in costume. It looks exhausting, by the way. And what I'm thinking is that this is Colorado. This is like world-class athletes are just like tearing up this park because all these like Olympic training people who, these people who get up and on a Sunday morning, they'll go trail run to the top of a 14,000.
Oh, trail runners, so annoying. The worst.
Right.
They're showing up and kicking everyone's ass.
Do trail runners know how much everybody hates them? We hate you so much. Okay, here's my idea. If we all go to Frozen Dead Guy and we do the coffin race, our costume, Jamaican bobsled team. 100%. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah,
all right.
great.
All right.
I'm in.
What other events did
I'll
you
be
see?
John Candy.
Yeah. You're going to hide weights in the coffin?
A couple other events. There's turkey bowling.
Frozen turkey bowling, right?
Frozen turkey bowling.
Right.
I have actually participated in this activity, and it is super fun. You just toss a frozen turkey. You toss a frozen turkey into the air, and I've done it with 5-gallon buckets that you have to knock over, but I think they use bowling pins there, so you just...
Me and Joe are just looking at each other so skeptic about his description of fun.
Such southerners.
We're glad you're here because only a Wisconsin or Minnesota person.
This is why I'm so excited about this. This
right
reminds me of home.
But you slide the turkey, and it slides because it's on ice, and it's frozen, and it just knocks over the
frozen lane, you knock over pins.
What's that Olympic event with the brooms?
Oh, curling.
It's curling.
Yeah, it's like curling with a...
No, I'm just like only frozen. It's funny because the Olympic sports, the winter ones, it's just like they started making shit up for entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's cold outside and there's nothing else to do.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what it feels
That is not what it feels like. That's exactly what happens up there. You just start drinking, go out in the snow, and do really weird
Make up a
things.
stupid game.
Make up a stupid game.
Kelly, have you ever curled?
I have not curled. I've shuffleboarded.
Okay. I would like to curl. I've never curled.
Yep.
Would you want to be a sweeper or a person who?
Stone thrower.
Okay.
Is that? I don't. That's
You have
probably.
to grow a mustache before you do that. Sorry. So.
I would do either. I would sweep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like I don't
wanna be in there
discriminate.
somewhere.
Yeah. A couple other events. There's a salmon toss also. I don't know if you read about that.
Seattle? Like in Seattle?
I think it's similar. I think it's more of a distance thing. So you get a frozen salmon, and they at one of the bars in the town, they just do a distance toss.
I just picture them doing it by the tail, like Aquaman would throw a shark back into the. You know what I mean? Just kind of whip it around. Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of like the hammer throw. You spin around.
Yep,
yeah, I
exactly.
gotcha. Yeah,
Like a
that's
shot
how
put.
That's how I throw sharks.
Frozen salmon?
It's frozen salmon. Everything's frozen.
All right, good.
And then,
These poor salmon died for our fucking entertainment. Do they even at least eat them afterwards?
Yeah,
I would eat it.
I was reading an article actually. The woman who puts on the frozen salmon throwing competition, the reporter went up to her and asked her about it, and she just goes, "Are you from PETA?" Because we've had trouble with those people before.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they're not welcome at first.
Between the salmon throwing and the turkey bowling, if you're an animal in Colorado, you're entertainment for sure.
They're not going to kill you. They're just going to suspend you forever in frozen ice.
The last event that I read about was Rocky Mountain oyster eating competition.
Ew.
Have you guys aware of what this is?
I know what they are. Do you
Yeah, I know what they are. But
Yeah.
I thought that was a whole different festival in Montana, but
Well, I think that's just part of this. They're just trying to
why
bring
not?
in all the craziest shit they can into Frozen Dead Guy.
Do you want to explain what those are if people don't know?
I think they're bull balls.
Bull balls.
It's,
Yeah, some sort of bighorn sheep or...
Bull testicles.
Yeah, they're testicles.
Frozen
of
or not
various,
frozen? Deep fried,
They're
maybe?
deep fried.
Yeah.
They fry them up, so that's nice.
have you ever eaten them?
I never have, but...
Oh, you don't do that in Wisconsin? You guys look down upon
But
that?
what it was described in something I read, it was described as a really fucked up chicken nugget.
I bet some
Would you eat one?
Yankee puts ketchup
I'll
on
give
it.
it a shot.
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah.
If I was at the festival,
what is it? The oyster? What is it? Oyster festival?
Ball fest? I don't know.
Testicle Festival.
Ooh, so the Blue Ball this year is on Friday the 13th, which is kind of cool. So they have 30 bands play throughout the weekend, which is also really cool. So it's a huge party. You talked about the costumes. They also have a T-shirt contest.
Frozen T-shirt. Frozen T-shirt.
What does that mean?
Which I had to look it up. I'm like, Frozen T-shirt contest. And I guess they freeze these T-shirts ahead of time. And then you have
to put it on?
It's the quickest to put on a Frozen T-shirt.
Oh, so they're like stiff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely...
Which makes sense.
Definitely...
It does make sense.
More different than a T-shirt contest.
I was thinking wet T-shirt contest. No, it's all frozen. No.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, what else do we have? Got the coffin races.
There's a brain freeze contest where they eat cold either drinks or food as fast as they can. So, they give you that brain freeze.
Oh, I hate those. Why would anybody want
ice cream too fast?
Why would anybody want the contest? I bet there's some trick you can do to try not to get it. I know that if you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, it's supposed to help. Just so you know, we all learned something today. I love this snowy human foosball. So basically, people are tied to giant poles like foosball players, and you play foosball with real people. 6 per team, $5 per player. Must fill out a waiver, and portions and proceeds go to the food pantry. Really cool on that one. Like you said, brain freeze contest. Look at that, $5 entry fee. I mean, these people look like they're having a good time. Ice turkey bowling, frozen fix-a-flat. Who wants to shed some light on whatever the hell that is?
So they change a bike tire.
Is that changing a bike tire?
Changing a bike tire.
Dunk your hands in a cooler of ice for 1 minute and then see how quickly you can fix a flat tire on a bike wheel.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
For you.
For me. I mean, this girl, look how happy she is.
Yeah.
Just holding up her double bikes. Live music, prizes rewarded. I mean, you can actually train for that to probably manipulate your hands, or if you know how to... I don't know how to fix a regular fucking bike tire, let alone with my...
ideal conditions?
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, and then you have to run this trail and ride your bike down it because it's Colorado and everybody's athletic. Okay, so what would you guys do if you went on the shed tour? Like, would you want to see inside and seem frozen? Do you think that's something you can see?
I have to get a look at this guy. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming, he has been frozen for, 20 years now?
I couldn't find any pictures of him.
Yeah. I think I saw one of him alive. He looked like a, basic Norwegian dude. But I want to see what's going on with him. Is he preserved perfectly? What's he wearing?
I want to know if his eyes are open.
Right.
Is that the creepiest thing I've ever seen?
Or if, can you see his whole body like Austin Powers, clear through the ice, or is it...
Is he wearing like a gray jumpsuit like he expects to wake up in the future, and that's what we'll all be wearing? Like, what is the plan?
Right.
Yeah, because they can't have him naked, because that would be, if he wakes up, he'll just be so confused. Yeah, exactly.
I also heard that at one point they brought in another frozen dead person just because they had the shed. Available.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
No. Maybe they shipped him off because I think it's currently only one frozen dead guy, but I think there was previously at least one other frozen dead person, because science, in a shed with dry ice. Right. That's just the way to do it.
Well, they do have a Grandpa Brado and Ice Queen look-alike contest. They if you can look like Grandpa Brado, like you said, the photos, that's a good thing. And then they just go Ice Queen for the ladies. I mean, take your pick of what you think that would look like. Yeah.
I think an Elsa,
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
They have a silent disco at 10 p.m. I love silent discos.
Silent disco.
Yeah, they have a silent disco too.
Do you guys know what those are?
Yes.
Everything cool. Yeah. Everything cool they do.
I love silent discos because some people are on different radio stations, and so you're like, that person has no rhythm, or like, I went one and you could see everybody was dancing to the YMCA because they were doing the hand motions, and I was like, oh, I am on obviously a different channel than you guys.
That's funny.
Let's see.
So are we going this year, next year?
I want to go. It's in March. Yeah.
So I was thinking, Joe, you and I, last year we were in Colorado.
Right.
I think we arrived in Denver area when the festival was ending, so we just missed it. And we wouldn't have known. We should have known, but we were so close.
You
it would
guys
have been
were.
amazing.
That would have been. What if you just stumbled upon it and you're like, actually, we've been there?
So we got. Maybe we'll have to make another trip this year.
Let me hear your movies.
So, in reference to movies that have kind of frozen dead guys or cryogenics in some way, like, built into them.
It's a very common, especially in sci-fi, someone gets frozen and woken up 200 years later.
We mentioned Austin Powers. Yeah. That's like one of the most known because that's the whole premise of the Austin Powers movie. But there's I thought of Alive, where they crash. The airplane crashes the soccer team in the, the Andes? In South America.
That kind of goes back to what I originally thought the frozen dead guy days was like a guy who is in an ice cube that you would have to chip out, because something.
But in that movie, they have to and they end up we
get it, Jim. Okay.
You know what happens. No spoiler. All right, they eat each other.
Yeah. For some reason, frozen dead guys and cannibalism just seem to go hand in hand.
That's well preserved meat, basically.
Then Encino Man, which we mentioned earlier. Then The Shining has a frozen dead guy.
I was really hoping you were going to skip that, and I was going to throw it back. You forgot
thought of that one.
But no, it's great at the end. That's just because you think it's going to end, but it's great. It's great how they find us.
And here, we're recording this here in Pleasant Ridge, and we have the Overlook Lodge, which is, a bar that's based off of The Shining. We got to mention The Shining and having a frozen dead guy.
Missed opportunity if they don't have a frozen dead guy outside of their bar.
Yeah, or at least in the restroom or something.
There's got to be more. What is there anymore?
Goonies has a frozen dead guy. So,
Chester
Chunk.
Copperpot?
Well, he's down in there. But one of the mobsters has a frozen dead guy, and Chunk is and he's like, "It's a stiff!" And the dead guy falls on him. He keeps pushing him back, and because he's eating ice cream, and he's really
so
happy. And then,
dude, it's a stiff. But you knew the line, and it just brings me back.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a stiff. There's so many. You ever memorize a movie before you are old enough to know what all the words are?
Is that Goonies for you?
Goonies for me. And a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah, you didn't know all the innuendo.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I think there's a movie called Iceman.
There's a few
like Frozen or I don't know. It's not Alien or.
I was looking at that.
Yeah, there's some Frozen.
I never saw it.
Yeah,
someone gets frozen and wakes up.
Game of Thrones has ice people, dead people.
Oh yeah,
Those are
ice walkers. Or something walkers. There's going to be some furious Game of Thrones fans yelling at us.
There's a Dustin Hoffman movie, Little Big Man, which has a frozen dead guy. You've never seen it?
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
It's good. I liked it. Anyway, it's a guy hunting grizzly bears that got frozen. So he takes his gun from him. So there's a lot of
the only references. One I was more focused on the hibernate kind of aspect of it, where you freeze and then you wake up many years later by some magical science. And my favorite one of those movies is Idiocracy.
Oh, so good!
It's an amazing movie. And everything is coming true in Idiocracy today. It's really freaky, but that's one where, an average Joe, I don't know if he's frozen or some sort of hibernation technology. He hibernates for 200 years, wakes up, goes about his life, and then he takes some sort of test, and they discover he's the smartest man in the world because everyone has gotten so much dumber over 200 years. And
they spray the crops with Mountain Dew.
It's just an amazing movie. But that one's great. I love that concept. It's good.
I watched one recently. There's no frozen dead guys, but almost. It's called The Mountain Between Us. It's got Kate Winslet and Idris Elba. And they are on a plane, and there's a dog on the plane.
Of course.
We were just talking about that on your podcast. And there's only 4 people, and the pilot has a heart attack, and so the plane goes down on this mountain. So it's just Kate Winslet and her bum leg, and Idris and the dog, and they have to like go walk through this frozen tundra of land.
Wow.
To
Sounds
find
intense.
shelter and food so they can survive.
Is it comedy?
It's very...
I'm living my best life.
It's so they have. I like the names of the tents too because I think these are cool. They have the Reanimate Yourself tent, like Reanimator, Bacon, Bourbon, and Brews tent. I can't read that one. What does that say? But they also have like things around town. So I guess the local businesses want to get on and provide like activities to do at their bars or restaurants and things to incorporate themselves into the festival since they're probably bringing in so many tourists as well.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual science behind this. So there's a lot of people that believe that this is going to work. So this cryogenically frozen dead person someday will be reanimated.
The way he's explaining with his hands, he's like, some people. He's like, me.
Very serious right now.
You people.
No, you do. I believe. Are you one of these people that believe
No,
this?
I actually don't. But
Okay.
I'm fascinated by this. So there are 4 different companies in the world that currently do this. So they have like tanks. This is not shed, non-science. They have tanks. There's a company in Michigan that has these tanks filled with liquid nitrogen, and they currently have something like 170 frozen dead guys in this facility in Michigan, and they're charging them $35,000, I think, for this service.
Which brings me to an interesting question. Okay. Maybe you're going there, but you can do your whole body or just the head. So did you know that? So, which is interesting. Like, what would you do? Would you do the whole head or the whole body?
I would remove my head and just do the rest of my body.
But
no head at all. I've worked hard for my body, all right? I want to keep it. I don't want to come back. Unless they could make me into an animal hybrid. That's the only way I'd want just to keep my head.
I mean, in the future, they can do anything like that. So you could, but I don't know, chopping your head off and then freezing it just seems like, that seems like a stretch to me.
Let me describe this process because I was fascinated by this. No,
that was a good question.
Very good question.
I think we should revisit that.
So here's the process of this cryogenic freezing thing. You have to start the process within 2 to 15 minutes of dying.
Oh shit! So you gotta plan this.
You're not like you die in a car accident and then a couple months later they ship you to the cryogenic facility. This is like I'm starting to have a heart attack. I got to make it to the cryogenic facility before I die.
Question.
I will not live forever. Yeah.
Do you think that you have to die of natural causes or not something traumatic where your body gets...
I would say it's probably best if you die of natural causes, right? Mm-hmm. Or some, which again is confusing to me because it's mostly elderly folks. And, so you freeze yourself and then you wake up in 2,000 years and you're just like old.
You still have arthritis, like you're saying, yeah.
But here's what happens. So you die, they pack your body with ice, they inject some chemical, and then start to decrease your body temperature. Then they drain your blood and then replace it with antifreeze.
Oh no, that's terrible.
And then...
How do they think that's gonna fucking work?
No, I don't know. This is insane. And then they just decrease your body temperature to in liquid nitrogen minus 170 degrees.
Listen, if you guys want to pay me $35,000 to just fuck with your dead body after you die with no guarantee that anything's gonna happen, I can do that.
Right, yeah.
Fill your body with paint.
Yeah.
I mean, I sound like a serial killer, but seriously.
So the thought is someday someone's going to come up with a way to suck out the antifreeze, replace it with blood or whatever synthetic something. What I can't believe there's people who are paying good money to do this.
I bet the scientists who are doing it to them, they're like, well, what are you going to do when you die? They're like, oh, definitely not this. No, fucking definitely not this. I mean, even if they wake up, these scientists aren't going to be there to be like, did it work? Did that thing?
And there are companies that have done this and taken all the money and stored and then gone out of business, and then they just dumped the bodies.
Like my LASIK eye surgeon, same thing happened. I bought a lifetime warranty on these goddamn eyes, and they're like, see ya with your lifetime warranty.
It's only as good as as the company's guarantee.
Yep.
I thought naming a star after someone was the biggest scam. You know what I mean? I had
This
no
one's
idea.
way bigger scam.
I mean, this is like the pet cemetery of people. Well, that was also of people, if you finish the movie. All right, going back. Yeah, that's so
It's
fascinating.
lunacy. Total lunacy.
Well, have you heard of cryotherapy? Just for
yeah.
60 seconds.
Yeah.
Or 30 seconds.
I did not until Antonio Brown was in France freezing his feet and something went wrong. He's a wide receiver.
Okay, you saw the dead look in my eyes. Like, please explain who this man is.
He's a pretty controversial ex-NFL player.
Yeah.
Okay, he froze his feet.
Yeah, he's what did you call it? Therapy,
Cryotherapy,
on his feet, and something went horribly wrong and burned the. He didn't wear the protective socks or something.
Yeah.
And it burned the hell out of his feet.
Well, obviously,
So stupid.
what's it called? Frostbite is something that happens when you don't protect your finger. It's always your fingers, your nose, your ears, your toes.
Have you ever done cryotherapy?
I've not done cryotherapy. I want to. I've done infrared therapy, but I've also had to sit in ice tanks after I've sprained my ankle in track practice or things like that. It really helps with the inflammation throughout your body. So I do believe in it as a science. Also, every time I go to a spa, like one with a hot tub or a pool, I always go to the cool pool. You know, it's like the Roman spas where you sit in a hot bath and then you go walk through the cool bath and your body's like, yeah. But then you get out and you're like, I am a goddess. I could run a marathon right now. Something it does to your body. It's amazing. Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, but I'm in. It's 2 to 4 minutes of exposure to minus 100 C or something. That's most of the cryotherapy. It's very cold, but you're only in there for
you don't he was focused on his feet for some reason.
You get in a tank, a hibernation chamber.
I think
Did I say hibernation? I don't know what I meant to say.
I think you get down to your underpants basically, and then wear earmuffs, gloves, and socks, and you go into this tank and freeze.
All right, I'm going to find us a Groupon and we're going to do this because
That'd be a great follow-up.
Yeah.
Is to do this.
Because I want to know. I just want to know what the benefits are, how you feel. I saw Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. God, I cannot pronounce sometimes. Real Housewives of Beverly Hills episode one time, and 2 girls did it, and they were screaming the whole time. And I was like, first of all, dramatic. Right. And then second of all, you're interrupting everybody's spa time as well. So chill with that. Yeah, exactly. It should be an experience between you and your toes. You know what I mean? Don't need to get everybody else in it. Okay. So do you think it's honoring this guy, or what do you think they're actually celebrating? The fact that life goes on, the fact that this guy chose to die in this weird way, creepiness, the town, the history. What do you think is the appeal of this one?
I think there's let's celebrate our immortality and get effing crazy on some cold weekend in Colorado doing all this stuff sounds amazing and so much fun, and we're all going to live forever.
Yeah.
Then we go home on Monday and go to our jobs. But it sounds
Not
awesome.
me anymore.
I think it has to do with any of these cold weather towns finally getting to the spring, and they're just so tired of being cooped up for all winter long that they just go crazy.
Oh, yeah, it is March. So it's the kind of end of winter going into spring. I see it as the rebirth aspect, but also the live forever aspect. Like you said, kind of like this guy is choosing this weird half-life, half-death thing, and who knows what happens when we die, but it's why don't we go out and live right now for this? So, I think it's kind of cool.
And it's just the community coming together to help keep the power on or whatever, raise some money for the family that's keeping this going. And now it's become a thing where, they become recognizable, or the festival has. So they want to keep that going. So it's cool. And
there's a charity aspect too. I think they do donate to the food pantry, which I think is really noble of them to do. And why not, when you get that many people together, they want to spend money. The money's going to go somewhere. All these really cool events. I would love to go to the silent disco. I would love to jump in the plunge and coffin race and hear some of these obscure bands that I haven't heard before. What's your highlight here? Besides the tour, I know you want to see the dead guy. I know that you're just show me Brado.
I think it's going to be great. It would be great to see the coffin race. It looks like a ton of fun. The costumes, I'd love to get in it. It looks hard, but I bet it is so entertaining to watch. I bet there's people falling all over the place, slipping and sliding all over the place. I bet it's amazing.
It looks like a muddy mess. The whole that race and the whole event. It just seems like very muddy and very fun.
Well, I'm looking at the merch here. Jigsaw puzzles, hats, blankets, skull caps, coffee mugs. I mean, they are, making a kill. Look at this lighter, Grandpa lighter. I mean, they are really kind of everything you can buy. You can sponsor, you can be a volunteer, you can be a VIP. Let's see what we would get with VIP status. Okay, so it's $175, includes wristband, blue ball ticket, bottomless VIP cup, good for all beverages, all weekend, for all 3 music tents. Holy shit.
That's what we're doing.
Like John said, nothing to do but drink when you're cold. Swag bag with commemorative gifts and other goodies. VIP viewing for coffin races and polar plunge. I mean, that's probably alone to not have to fight through a crowd. You're just throwing your hands up. Done.
I'm sold.
Free participation in frozen turkey bowling.
Take my money.
Shut up, brain freeze contest and 1 polar plunge. Entrance to VIP party bus with snack lounge and fire pit area. I mean, the infrastructure they put into place for this, access to VIP potty, just all this stuff. It seems really well thought out. And this is their 19th year. It's going to be this year.
It's great. I think we have to go this year.
Yep.
This is, one of the most fun festivals I've ever heard of. And so I'm totally in on this.
All right. Anything before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it. I think it sounds like we're going and we're VIP.
Yeah. I think that this sounds like one hell of a weekend. And like I said in my last episode, they can get me to go anywhere with a pancake breakfast. And look at this motherfucking 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. pancake breakfast. So Grandpa's Mall Crawl, Reanimate Yourself tent. Viewing of the documentary, looks like it's called Grandpa's in the Tough Shed. So there is a documentary, short film about it, an award-winning one. If you would like to know more about the festival, kicks off with the hearse parade. And yeah, the full schedule, hot wing trivia. The full schedule is at frozendeadguydays.org. There's a poetry slam. I mean, it just seems like everybody has an idea that they're bringing to the table in this community, and they're like, how about we add this next year? How about we add this? So I'm pretty sure in probably the next couple, the 20th one. Should we wait? Should we go this year, the 19th or 20th?
20. 20 is going to be big.
20 is going to be big.
I think we might have to plan that.
We might have 2 pancake breakfasts for me.
Start saving for VIP tickets.
Yeah. All right. So anything else?
Well, I think one thing just to say before we wrap up, we're at the Coffee Exchange, which I think is just about to open here in the next couple of weeks to a month, and we're very excited. Joe's got a brand new walk-in cooler. I think after we wrap,
Boar's Head meats and cheese. Yeah, we'll go
check it out. I think it's minus 100 C in there, so maybe we'll get some cryotherapy tonight.
Right.
We'll see who fits in at the festival.
It's coming along. Ridge Radio, the radio station's looking good, and we should be open sometime soon. So looking forward to that.
All right, sounds good. Bye.
I'm living my best life.
Special thanks again to John and Joe for always being willing to be my guests on the podcast. We always have so much fun talking together, and they actually let me be a guest on their podcast right after we recorded this, so that's super fun. Thanks again to Phil from Mi Compadre for doing the editing for our show, and if you have a festival you'd like to tell me about, hit me up at festlifepodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram at livingmyfestlifepodcast. See you next time.